we're talking today with Nick Pinto, and we're going to ask him a few questions about his journey and have him tell us a little bit more about his life here at St. Joseph. So Nick, in looking over your bio, I saw that you moved here from Columbia, had gone to St. Louis for a while. Well, I'm wondering if you could start before that and talk about growing up as a kid. You know, was Catholicism part of your life, not part of your life? Was there something else? And how things started your faith development?
Oh, I come from a very large family. My mom was one of 11. My dad was one of 7. Both sides Catholic.
Okay.
I went to Catholic school, became an altar boy and all that. But when I went to Catholic school, my cousin was the principal. So if I got in trouble, she'd call my mom, and my mom would say, "Give it to him good."
Ouch.
Because he's going to get it again when he gets home.
Oh my.
There was always talk, but nothing serious.
Yeah.
But
you have lots of eyeballs on you.
oh, I
guess.
did. The priest, I've got 2 priests that are cousins that also, and then I had 1, 2, maybe 3 cousins that were sisters, or started to be a sister. I think one of them stopped.
Mm-hmm.
But I was an altar boy until I was 23. I was still in college.
Wow, no kidding.
Yeah, it was funny. The church kind of shrank because the high school closed, and then the grade school closed. And then we just didn't have a lot of kids that was going back to that church because they were attending the church where we went to school on the next ground. So, but yeah, so if there was a vacancy, a couple of us would hop out, put the cassock on, and go back up and serve the Father.
So it sounds like it was a very natural thing for you to just jump in to become an altar boy and stay there. Or did it feel like not so natural? You tell us about that.
No, it was actually just kind of fun. I was going to say, we were all, every year they would ask who wants to be an altar boy, and we'll come in for the training and start there. And we actually used to have 5 or 6 kids serving at the same time. So.
Wow.
You know, back then we carried the cross down the middle. We had the acolytes and a couple of those little things. We'd have 2 extras, so everybody got to participate. So if you carried the cross and somebody else did the incense, somebody else did the offertory.
Wow. So you describe it as fun. So I'm thinking, what was fun about it for you?
Well, it seemed like it was fun because during the week, every now and then you'd come up on a rotation. The convent was right next door, so during your time as an altar boy, once or twice every year you'd have to serve for the nuns. You'd do daily mass every day before church or before school.
Wow.
And the nuns would, you know, on Saturday would make you breakfast.
I knew there had to be food in this, or something else.
Yeah, and then I'm going to say Mr., what was his name? Wilson Farm. He had a big church gathering every year. He supplied his property, and it was a huge cookout and barbecue. It was a really good time for the parishioners and stuff.
Well, in such a large family, and many of them went into religious work, did you ever consider being religious yourself?
Might have crossed my mind, but not really. I was going to say, I've got a cousin who's a priest over in St. Vincent's Archavy in Latrobe, who had his eye on saying, "You're going to be a priest." And I never got married until I was about 30. And then he actually said, "I want to find the woman who finally got you that I couldn't."
So that was never something that you really wanted to pursue?
No.
Okay. So was there any time in your young adulthood that you drew away from the church, or had to question things for yourself?
Not really. I think I've only missed church maybe back then once or twice a year, and that's including holy days. Even when I went away to college, I found the Catholic Church and went there, found a group of us. When I got transferred to a new job between Florida and Washington and Puerto Rico and a lot of places, when I was here in Washington, I think we went to Bethesda. A bunch of us were Catholic, and we'd take the bus and go on down to church.
So it just was something that you just stuck with and you've been committed to all your life, it sounds like.
Yeah, I'm going to say I credit my mom for a lot of that, because she was real, you know, get in there, don't go because you have to go, go because you want to go.
Mm.
So,
So when you go to Mass, what stands out as especially meaningful to you?
pretty much all of it. I was going to say each part has a significant role in my life. I was going to say, you know, when you come in, you listen to the opening hymn and the songs. So it's a day to be rejoicing. You're in the Lord's house. So, you know, as you continue through, now you're here for His body and blood to save you, and then go with God. Continue your week.
So it seems pretty clear to you that you are a lifelong Catholic.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And that's not something you really question. Well, you certainly are very connected here. I've read all the things that you're doing. Why was it so important for you to get involved outside of church?
Just to know the people. I was going to say, it's funny, coming to Maryland, it seemed like a lot of the people here were more shut in. Even your neighbors don't really get out a lot. From where I was in Ohio, I grew up, everybody came out and said hi. We always went and did things. Puerto Rico, wow, that's a whole different story. In Florida, I've lived several places, but everybody just seemed to enjoy getting out.
In other places?
In other places, but also getting involved with the church.
Mm.
It was a good way to connect with the parishioners and meet new friends outside of work and just your normal, everyday kind of life.
So it seems like it's fairly much a social experience for you too. I mean, getting friendships and a sense of community.
Right, and to try to instill that in my nieces and nephews. It's like, well, how do you know this and how do you know that? Well, there's a lot of wealth in this, like Father Neville said, there's a lot of brain trust in this parish. There's a lot of different jobs and a lot of people can help you do a lot of things.
A lot of things related to church or life in general, or both?
Kind of both, because it's kind of like what we're doing now. Why are you so interested in church? I was brought up Catholic. I see the wealth of information and the serenity that brings you, the peacefulness of having a place to go and meditate and to worship. Mm-hmm. But apart from that, like I said, it brings people together outside of work. Mm-hmm. So it gives you a different look at life instead of honed into one little place all the time.
So it gave you, I guess what I'm hearing is that it gave you a broader experience of life. It was not work or church, but it then broadened your experience of the world and of life. Is that what you would say?
Yes, and I was going to say to try to bring other people into that, to try to get them more involved. Because I've been on a lot of little work groups, and it seemed like we had the same little group of people every time. So to reach out, it's like, why don't you bring your kids or bring yourself and show your kids to get involved a little bit more with church.
So bringing people in to experience what you've enjoyed.
Yes, I was going to say there's a lot of things to do in church. There's a lot to learn at church. There's a lot to give back from church.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit more about the giving back?
Yeah, I was going to say that maybe your job, you have a lot of experience. And you see a need at the church that said, we need volunteers or we need a way to get something. Other churches I know in Puerto Rico, if they needed something done, the confirmation kids would paint the church, paint the fence, clean everything up, make it sparkling. There was a lot of things. They'd go out to the nursing homes and help with the elderly, or go into parishioners' homes and help them clean up their yards, help out. And it was just all part of a sense of community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, there's that word again. I wanted to go back to something you said, that church gives you a sense of serenity. Yes. And peacefulness. Can you say more what that means to you?
This world's gotten fast. I mean, everybody has everything to do every minute of the day, it seems like. And then electronics have connected us all 24/7.
As of right now, they're connecting us.
Yes.
Yeah.
The text saying, be here.
Yeah.
But I mean, to schedule things in, you don't have time to do a lot of other things. So this is a time to slow down reflect on what the week had or what the week's going to bring.
You know, a lot of people don't like slowing down.
I figured that out on myself. I didn't realize how fast I was living because when I retired, I couldn't believe I would do the entire yard work and all the other stuff on a Saturday and Sunday, because now it takes me 3-4 days.
I've heard that about people that retire.
Yeah.
So you found that you needed to slow down, and you enjoyed slowing down.
Yes, yeah. Because I do that for 25 or 30 years, driving back and forth between Washington, D.C. and here. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thinking of your job, that was one of the other things I wanted to ask you. What was your job? What was your career and profession? And did faith play a part in you choosing that? You didn't go the way of priesthood, but you went somewhere else, and so I was curious about that.
No, I just kind of fell into the job. I was going to say my mom worked at the post office, and then I signed an application. I wanted to be a water meter reader man.
Okay.
Like that. And I got the letter to be a letter carrier 2 weeks before the water meter reader man, so I took the letter carrier.
Okay. So that's what you've been doing as your career?
I did that for a few years, and then that evolved into being a postal inspector, which is like federal law enforcement.
Oh, okay.
So then
go ahead.
I did that for several years, so I moved around a lot. During that time, we also were the auditors of the Postal Service, so once you were in one specialty, you had to do audit sometime in your career. So they sent me back to school, and I got a CPA, so that I did a lot of accounting.
Okay. Did your faith factor into work very much?
Not directly, no, because church and state kind of falls into line in that part.
That's true. Forgot about that part. Yeah.
So I can't go in there and interview you and bring up the Lord, you know, and bring up your faith to make you say something. That's just not right.
How do you go about doing that now? Do you have opportunities to talk to people about your faith and about the Lord now?
Yeah, especially like my younger nieces and nephews. My one niece recently decided she wasn't going to go to church anymore because it didn't bring her anything. I said, "What are you looking for?"
Good question.
Yeah.
What was her answer?
She didn't have one. So I said, "So is it just time consuming and you don't have time, or you're not making time?" And I think it's the latter.
So it must be difficult for you to listen to that. Seems how your whole life has been very focused and directed towards church and serving and all of that. What do you want to say to people like that?
It's tough. Even at work, I was going to say the idea of what people have today versus what I did growing up. We didn't have all the distractions, you know. When we went out to play, it was physical, not sit there with your thumb, two thumbs and tap away. So we didn't have that kind of distraction. We had other things. So if there were things going on, you met the other kids that you went to school with at the Catholic school, then you'd all find something to do. And we had basketball teams, football teams, softball teams, everything. So we were more physically oriented to church and to get into the gatherings and the groups.
More physically and socially than electronically, I guess.
Correct.
That's what you're saying.
There was no electronics. So.
Yeah, I think that myself, that distractions, even personally, I have to guard against distractions even at my age. You know, I didn't grow up with them, but they're certainly capturing adults' attention.
They do, and I was surprised at how much it does capture my attention because, yeah, when I went into the audit world, that's when the computerized everything came about. So it was changed the way you worked, changed the way you thought. So things came at you way faster.
Well, you know, I'm impressed with the amount of things that you've been doing, and now I'm hearing you say that you're looking for another ministry to get involved with. You're like the Energizer Bunny, you just can't quit, right? But I'm curious, you said you're looking to be a part of another ministry where you hope to get more parishioners involved with St. Joseph.
Yes.
So I guess we touched on that before, but what do you see yourself doing in the future that you haven't done or that you'd like to do more of?
I don't know. Last year, I think when we were doing the Jubilee, I think we had about 70 different ministries in this church.
Yeah, I've heard Father John say it's a big
think
number.
we're down to like 51 or
Yeah.
so now. So still, take a look at all the ministries and see what's in common with certain ones. Maybe we could get a bigger group and try to build that ministry. See what's out there. But yeah, I just saw the list here recently, and there's a lot to choose from.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you know, you're certainly a good role model for doing this, and I'd say that it has done well for you. It sounds like in developing friendships, using your skills, staying active, but more than that, you know, giving back. I'm hearing that that's a big part for you, to give back.
Yeah, I think I got a lot from the church. You know, and I think there's a lot to give back. I don't know if anybody's ever looked for what's out there or heard what's out there. So that's why I'd say if you find another ministry and try to grow that, it might catch the eye of somebody, because I think that some of the ministries are way too small to get a good thing, a good grasp or a good foothold.
Yeah.
So I think if that's, you know, brought to light, maybe, like I said, we could grow the group.
Well, you're bringing it to light right now, so I'm very grateful.
So, you know, if there's a small group, look at the ministries out there that's available. Get together with who's sponsoring it and see what you have in common or what you would like to see with your ministry. Because if you have a ministry, it needs to be brought out to the light so we can see it and to grow it.
You know, I was going to ask you for your sales pitch, and I think you just gave one. So I thank you for your time today and for sharing your story. Your story is inspiring.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
You're very welcome. So we thank Nick Pinto, and we look forward to having another journey next time.